Today we're reading from Hebrews 7 and we're going to be discussing why Melchizedek, or Mel, is related to Jesus. So please stay tuned. Welcome to The Bold Encourager. I'm Rebecca. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you're new to my channel, please do hit that subscribe button. It doesn't cost you anything. It just allows for me to get my positive, encouraging, and faithful messages out to everyone. So today we're reading from Hebrews 7, and we're actually going to be discussing why Melchizedek, whatever his name is, Mel, is related to Jesus. And so there's a huge correlation with him and Jesus, and we're going to discuss that today. He's only mentioned in the Bible twice beside in Hebrews. So you have to we're trying to understand, why is this guy such a big deal when he's only mentioned twice prior to Hebrews? It's just amazing how big of a responsibility this guy has, and we don't even know it, or at least I didn't even really know it. I just was like blown away by his resemblance and how he is correlated with Jesus. So it's pretty interesting. So we're going to find out about it. Actually, today I'm going to be kind of reading some things from this Hebrews, The Nearness of Jesus by Lisa Harper. I had to get some information because I was not very knowledgeable in this area. And I did buy this for this study of Hebrews. She does skip around. She doesn't cover all the chapters, so I haven't really used this in other studies. But she does cover the really important thing, which is this chapter 7, because I didn't really know very much about it. So it was very helpful in studying this chapter. So let's start by reading Hebrews 7, 1 through 10. And it's labeled Melchizedek the priest. So the question is, who is Mel? Who is Melchizedek? So let's get into this. This Melchizedek was king of Salem and priest of God Most High. He met Abraham returning from the defeat of the kings and blessed him. And Abraham gave him a tenth of everything. First, the name Melchizedek means king of righteousness. Then also king of Salem means king of peace. Without father or mother, without genealogy, without beginning of days or end of life, resembling the Son of God, he remains a priest forever. Just think how great he was. Even the patriarch Abraham gave him a tenth of the plunder. Now the law requires the descendants of Levi who become priests to collect a tenth from the people. That is, from their fellow Israelites, even though they are also descended from Abraham. This man, however, did not trace his descent from Levi, yet he collected a tenth from Abraham and blessed him who had the promises. And without doubt, the lesser is blessed by the greater. In the one case, the tenth is collected by people who die, but in the other case, by him who is declared to be living. One might even say that Levi, who collects the tenth, paid the tenth through Abraham, because Melchizedek met Abraham. Levi was still in the body of his ancestor. So it's pretty interesting. Mel has like a huge calling on his life, and we don't really, I didn't really realize the qualities this guy had. So the question is, who is Melchizedek, or Mel, right? Did you notice in verse 3, it mentions having neither beginning of days nor end of life. So the NCV paraphrases the passage as, no one knows when he was born or when he died. The translation of the phrase suggests they chose the first of the two opinions scholars hold about Melchizedek. So some believe Melchizedek was a human character in Genesis. As a human, he would have died, but we're not told about his death. Therefore, the pastor can use him as a prop to prove this argument. Then there's this other theory that others hold, that Melchizedek was supernatural. He was pre-incarnate, an appearance of Jesus, a Christophany, a Christophany. Therefore, the pastor used him as a prop to prove his argument. So solid Bible-believing scholars hold to each opinion. So there's two opinions, and these are both what people hold to. And they note in the Psalm 110 definitely puts Melchizedek as a messianic context either way. So regardless of what the opinion is correct, that he was part of the messianic context, right? And then you can read the passage and determine for yourself, or you can leave it open, whatever you want to do. But in Genesis 14 and Psalm 110, many centuries before, the pastor would need Melchizedek to make the truth about Jesus clear. Just don't miss the remarkable air of mystery God wrapped around the priest of Salem. What a mighty God who can span 2 millennia from Abraham to Jesus, all to lift up his son. So regardless of what the answer is, we know this is a huge miracle. And we can see that Melchizedek is used as an example to show the difference between the perfect priesthood of Jesus and the Levitical priesthood for so many years, right? And there's several reasons of that. First, the title, the King of Salem, which means Salem means the same Hebrew root as the word of shalom, or peace. Therefore, it's not too much of a stretch to call Melchizedek the King of Peace, which sounds a lot like the Prince of Peace, titled Isaiah ascribed to Emmanuel, as they were describing Jesus. So you can see that Mel has this great resemblance, and he was kind of the person that was the high priest that's mentioned twice. And Abraham even gave him 1/10 of everything. So he was not in the lineage of the Levi, which was kind of what the Jewish believed, that everybody should come from the Levi descendant in order to be a high priest. So a lot of the Jewish people did not understand how Jesus could be anybody, because he wasn't from that lineage. And it was just proof that this guy, Melchizedek, was not from that lineage either, and he was a high priest. So this is why it was a good example. So we can kind of see why the pastor explains how Melchizedek had this. Nobody knows when Melchizedek was born or when he died. There's no information on that. So we don't know if this guy was a supernatural being or if he was human, but we do know he was a high priest, and he's someone we can compare, because you got to give comparison. Sometimes when people don't understand a new concept, it's easier to explain something they do understand. So that's why the pastor's using Melchizedek as an example, because it makes more sense to the Jewish people who are struggling to understand the message of Jesus and salvation. So that's why Mel has such a big role here. And we know that, nobody else could perfect the priesthood like Jesus could, because he is the one that lives forever and eternally, and the Levi priesthood was not perfect. It had so many flaws, and there had to be sacrifices made to fulfill any kind of forgiveness from God. So there was flaws, and we know that we have to explain things in a certain manner so people understand. So that's why Melchizedek comes in and why he plays such a big role in this. So let's read the second part where we talk about Jesus being like Melchizedek. And that's verses 11 through 28. Hebrews 7. If perfection could have been attained through the Levitical priesthood, and indeed the law given to the people established that priesthood, why was there still a need for another priest to come, one in the order of Melchizedek, not in the order of Aaron? For when the priesthood is changed, the law must be changed also. He of whom these things are said belonged to a different tribe, and no one from that tribe has ever served at the altar. For it is clear that our Lord descended from Judah, and in regard to that tribe, Moses said nothing about priests. And what we have said is even more clear: if another priest like Melchizedek appeared, one who had become a priest, not on the basis of a regulation as to his ancestry, but on the basis of the power of the indestructible life. For it is declared, you are a priest forever in the order of Melchizedek. The former regulation is set aside because it was weak and useless. For the law made nothing perfect, and a better hope is introduced by which we draw near to God. And it was not without an oath. Others became priests without any oath, but he became a priest with an oath when God said to him, "The Lord has sworn and will not change his mind. You are a priest forever." Because of this oath, Jesus has become the guarantor of a better covenant. Now there have been many of those priests since death prevented them from continuing office, but because Jesus lives forever, he has a permanent priesthood. Therefore, he is able to save completely those who come to God through him, because he always lives to intercede for them. Such a high priest truly meets our need, one who is holy, blameless, pure, set apart from sinners, exalted above the heavens, unlike the other high priest. He does not need to offer sacrifices day after day, first for his own sins and then for the sins of the people. He sacrificed for their sins once for all when he offered himself. For the law appoints as high priest men in all weakness, but the oath which came after the law appointed the Son, who has been made perfect forever. Wow. So we know that Jesus was the perfect answer. He was the perfect answer. There was a glitch in the system. There was imperfection in the old covenant. And what was ascending in the time of the Hebrews is there was dark times descending in the community. They wanted to go back to Judaism even though it had flaws, because it was something they knew. It's something that was familiar. It's something they understood. We got to look at Jesus as this merciful high priest. What we don't understand sometimes, we have a hard time believing. And that's where faith comes in, because when you have a hard time believing things, you just have to have faith in God. His ways are just different and unique, and they bring us so much grace. And it's the things that are the unseen that are actually more real than the things that are seen, because our spiritual battles we face and everything, it's more real. A lot of times what we see, it can be illusions and a lie from the enemy. So it's interesting to read how they were struggling to understand this gift of God, which is Jesus as our Savior and our superior high priest. But I think the most important thing we need to take away from it is not all the facts and things like that, but the gift of salvation. So I really thought this was interesting. I really wanted to share this with you. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, please do give it a big thumbs up. Also, please comment down below what your favorite verse was. Also, comment down below if you really enjoyed learning about Mel. Every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I will post a new Walk by Faith Wednesday video, so you don't want to miss it. If you're on YouTube or Rumble, please do hit that notification bell. It will notify you each time I post a new video. If you haven't followed me on social media, please follow me on social media. I'm at The Bold Encourager on Facebook, Instagram, Rumble, YouTube, and on MeWe at Rebecca Mooney. Well, I hope you have an amazing day, and I hope you stay encouraged.